I don't see you. Yes, you're back. So, Asta, welcome to this podcast. I'm so interested to hear what you might like to share with us, with the listeners, about your thoughts, your experiences about birth, anything at all. I've heard you mention you have a blog. Perhaps you could tell us something about where your blog is and what you've written and the reactions.
Hi, Paul. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's always wonderful to chat with you, and there's so many things that we share in common, so it's always a pleasure to talk to you. My blog is called wildishwonder.com, and I started it as a little project when my first daughter was very little. And the idea behind it, apart from sort of creative experience that I wanted to have, was just to capture all the things that made me really excited, like things that created this state of wildish wonder within me, like hearing some subject that I had never thought about before, or a new person, a new book, someone to interview about a new subject. And it sort of evolved with whatever I was living with. So breastfeeding, menstruation, childbirth. I mean, there were many different subjects that came up into my awareness, and oftentimes created this like, wow, I can't believe I had never heard this before, or wow, I really want to talk to this person. So little by little, it's like a mosaic of subjects and topics that created this excitement within me, and I've collected them in my blog.
Wonderful. So hearing you mention a few subjects there, I'm also aware of herbal medicine that you've looked at, and I'm wondering if there's some link with the initiation of menstruation in puberty and birth and even the menopause. There must be some common threads, or I don't know, how do you see it? And did the herbal medicine give you some insights?
Herbal medicine is actually something that is beginning to really excite me at the moment. So apart from, growing up in Lithuanian culture, where we still have a lot of the traditions alive, as kids, we knew a lot of the plants when we played outside, and sort of maybe a little bit touching essential oil, some of the plant medicine in that. I haven't really, I'm looking forward to diving deeper into the subject in the future. But in terms of menstruation, I had a very interesting guest, an interview with a lady who did it was a conversation about conscious menstruation. It was this idea about planning our time. As women, we have our rhythm and how we move through these sort of times of the year in a way. Each month it's sort of a cycle, from moving from winter to spring to summer to autumn, week by week, and how to plan our energy. So maybe if you have an important meeting, don't plan it the week when you're supposed to have your period, or the week before that, because the best week for something that you're trying to maybe say a sales pitch or something really exciting, an exciting presentation, the best thing to do that is perhaps during the week of your ovulation, So she had a lot of really interesting ideas around that. Just becoming really aware, becoming aware of your body, becoming aware of how you expend your energy, how you rest. I mean, rest is such a huge link missing, I think, in all of that, and in postpartum, in during menstruation, in menopause, and all of that, finding our sort of sacred rest. But herbal medicine is an interesting subject as well.
So that one word, how, we might talk about some ideas like women could rest more, and many people listening to this will think, how can I do it? Because we live busy lives. I agree with you. Self-compassion is the most important thing. In fact, mothers who care for themselves can more effectively care for their babies and their children. So having that self-compassion, having the rest. But how do you manage? You've got 2 young ones. What ages are they, and how do you find time?
For me, Paul, this is a very important subject. I have 2 daughters. One is 5 and one is 1-year-old. So it's a very busy time for both of them, and constant running around because the 1-year-old is now running. And for postpartum, I can tell you that both times, after both pregnancies, it was so clear for me that it was something that we had to plan, no less than planning everything that we planned for the birth, Both of my daughters were born at home, so there was a lot of preparation and planning that went into that. But likewise for the postpartum period. So the month after our, during the pregnancy, we planned the month that would follow after birth, the 40 days, which I think are so important, Paul. Like it's like, you're about to start a huge journey. And if you don't rest, if you don't prepare yourself for that, like that's just not a great start. And that's how I see these first 40 days after birth. And for us, it was very conscious planning. Who's going to enter our house? Are we going to have any guests at all? How are we going to entertain our older daughter after the baby is born during the days when I might not be able to assist her? How is my husband going to plan his work? What am I going to eat? How many snacks I'll have hidden in the little corners around the house? Supplies for anything that the baby might need. It was such a conscious preparation, and I think it made things so easy for both of us, especially the idea of not having guests, or having as little as possible as some people still wish to have, because it's so important.
I hear this, the planning really helps.
Yes, it really does. And sort of really making it a conscious, like, it's not just, oh, we'll see when it happens. No, it's nothing one phase finishes after you give birth, but then something so huge begins that you have to think about that beforehand, because once the baby is born, there's no time to plan. You're in the whirlwind of all of it,
So having a good birth, as I guess your home births, if you see them as good births, it doesn't end there, does it? It's just the beginning, I guess.
It's the beginning, yeah.
How does it feel to achieve the birth that you want, and what did you need to achieve the home births? Or was it a question of not doing things, like not going to hospital appointments and following a prescribed?
It was a little bit of both in a way. I think maybe for first birth, it was more of that I really knew what I didn't want, because for me, my mindset really was ignited when I saw the documentary that I keep mentioning everywhere and to everyone. Orgasmic Birth is called, the documentary, because it just opens up your eyes to the kind of births that are possible. And I think that when you know that there's other options other than hospital, then you might decide that that's what I want. Like, I want what these women are having, And for me, it was very much like that with the first birth. And then with the second one, I mean, it felt like it was such an easy decision, because I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew exactly what would happen. And it was just a very sort of a preparation within. There's a lot of work, obviously, within working with your mind, a lot of focus. I think focus is a very, very important word in all of that.
How do you get focus? If somebody's listening to this thinking, okay, she wants to prepare for a home birth, but she has all this input around her, some of it maybe negative, how can she create focus in her life to get what she would like, or stop having what she doesn't like?
Yeah. First of all, I think it's very important to focus the information that is coming through, So for the first pregnancy, I was really eager to learn. Like, I'm the kind of person who sort of maybe over researches things, and I just really wanted to know a lot. But it was very important to make sure that information that I was consuming or learning, it was very empowering, because you can, there's so much you can learn about birth and pregnancies, but it's not useful because it creates fears, it creates doubt, where it's absolutely not necessary to have that. Of course, you can still read about risks and things and how, how to resolve situations as they happen, but there's just different quality of information that seeks to inform, but also empower. So I think that's the first thing in terms of focusing, is being very, very clear and very precise what it is that you're looking for. So I'm looking for something that supports my vision. I'm looking for something that supports that this is possible, that this is not only possible, but this is the best, the best for me, for my baby, for our family. And then for the second birth, for me, was very much because the information was already there in my mind, so much. I mean, conferences and videos, and there's amazing online courses as well, very positive, very empowering. But for the second birth, I felt more like a lot of work was focusing my mind, because I wanted not so much only empowering birth, but I wanted an easy empowering birth. I wanted ease. I just wanted simple. My whole pregnancy was like, this mantra in my mind: easy, 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 like smooth, simple, quick, because that's the experience what I wanted. Why not? And if we set our mind to it, if we're able to focus, again, the word focus our vision. So whenever some doubts or fears arise about, oh, it's going to happen like this or something else, well, that's fine. Acknowledging those, maybe working with them through journaling or whatever is the work that helps each one of us, and then refocusing your mind to, well, no, but I see this moment when I'm holding my baby in my arms, and it's all fine and it's all worked out, and focusing the team as well, who you work with.
So of what you want. And
Yes.
can you apply that to life?
Of course.
You continue to journal now, even after the birth.
All the time, Paul, for many years. Yeah, it's a very important practice.
It's journaling to you. Is it writing things down or cutting things out, or how is it?
It's a lot of different things. I play with collages, I play with letters, I write letters, I do release, sort of, writing down fears or things that no longer serve me and burning them every month as a little practice. I do sometimes writing also when things feel really, really good. So like, sort of creating this like amazing energy around yourself, like gratitude, or making lists on things that I'm appreciating, or sometimes if a situation arises that I feel very uncomfortable around, is a really great exercise to sort of start with, okay, I am here, I'm uncomfortable. Let's say I'm about to go to see a dentist, and you start with, okay, I'm uncomfortable, I'm a bit scared, or I don't like the sensation of whatever, discomfort physically, and then you begin to write slowly statements that sort of bridge you to the state that you would like to feel. So you'll say, well, I am doing what I need to do. The dentist is very gentle, or I think it's all going to be all right, or I have to do this procedure because whatever. And so sort of lifting yourself out of that discomfort that you might feel mentally or emotionally or whatever. So yeah, journaling is a very important tool.
That's interesting to hear you answer that. And for myself, I have a saying: it's good to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Because uncomfortable things will happen in life, and if we can just hold the space. So I wonder if what you're describing, I think journaling sounds fantastically creative, therapeutic. As you said, you're letting go of some things by burning perhaps letters that you might write, or poems, or anything. And you're being very creative, cutting out, sticking. It's a very simple-ish thing to do, but I'm just acknowledging you doing the journaling and supporting what a wonderful thing it is. And how was it for your husband? Did he need to do anything, or does the man just have that does he have calmness and trust, or did he need persuading for anything? Because I know some partners are more concerned about home birth. They don't always realize it's actually safer.
I think if a husband has sort of this trust towards the woman that whatever she is choosing is what this team of baby mom are choosing, then it becomes so much easier, because the partner ultimately, of course, his energy matters, his fears matter, because if someone who's very fearful around you or having a lot of doubts, then obviously they need to do a lot of work as well alongside the woman. And yet, let's see, this fear that you have, is it arising because your mom had a difficult birth, with you, or is it because you're scared of, just working through the fears and finding solutions with them. I was very, I don't want to say lucky, because lucky to me is just not the right word, because when you prepare yourself, it's not luck, it's like very, very lucky, conscious. Right there. Yeah, a right man who's very focused as well. And I think he was very good at just sort of trusting and being very present, but also very not distracted by anything, by noise, by doubts of others. He was very clear that what I'm choosing is because I must have my innate, my intuition, my guidance telling me that this is the right path. We had a team of birth midwives in the first birth too, and the same two ladies came in the second birth. And for him, that was a great source of comfort, because here were two women extremely experienced in birth, so they would know what was happening. And with that, I think for him was, and then obviously being informed and going to meetings perhaps before getting to really know these people, because birth is no different than having sex with someone, or it's a very intimate moment. So I think having people who come to your birth, it's a wonderful feeling when you know them, because it's like
I say that we can establish trust in one glance in somebody's eyes, and you can be there for them. However, it's much deeper the longer we've known them. Like an intimate relationship, when you've hugged somebody once, it might be wonderful. When it's 100 or 1,000 times, you've probably gotten deeper each time. So that trust is deeper. And I'm interested in where you gave birth and what it would have been like if you had given birth in your country of origin. And is it the genes? Your sister also had a home. So is it, what's made you both so positive to choose positive husbands, positive life, positive birth? And somebody out there thinking, well, I've got some challenges, how is it? Because you came from probably a challenging country. Lithuania, I've been there, it's not so easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit sometimes tricky to talk about what would happen had it happened. Like, I don't know what would have happened in Lithuania, because Paul, that Lithuania is not necessarily a very home birth friendly country, at least up until very recently. It wasn't even an option for most women. But I think there's a certain, perhaps growing up there, that I think there's a certain impulse to question things. Perhaps maybe that's what has led to a lot of my discoveries in life, that we grew up in Soviet Union, where a lot of information, a lot of propaganda, you might want to call it, was presented as if this is the ultimate fact, and this is how life is, and this is where we are. And even as a kid, I could sense that oftentimes, like, I have a very strong radar within my body of, like, I don't think that's how it is. I don't think I'm being revealed the full truth about any particular subject, or this person who's sharing something, something doesn't quite resonate with me. And therefore, when it came to this experience of understanding the world of birth, it felt very strong for me, for these intuitive tentacles, that something wasn't right with the story being told in hospitals, that maybe it works for some women, but there was ultimately a lot of stories that weren't what I wanted to experience. And, everything from the preparation for birth, the procedures, the many outcomes, the over inflated cesarean rates, how babies were being handled immediately after birth. It just intuitively for me did not resonate with how I wanted to experience this process. And then it became easy once you start questioning, once you start asking. There's so much amazing information out there about how it can be and what is possible, and how amazing that is later for baby, for mom, for bonding, for the outcomes.
We'd like this podcast to show how amazing, positive and wonderful it can be. Babies don't have to be separated from their mothers at birth, have the cord. They don't have to have injections or be weighed. They're not going to change their weight.
For 3 days even.
So how was your experience? Tell us of your first baby and perhaps your second one. When she came out, how did you receive her? Did you do it? Did the midwives help you, or your husband?
Both of my babies were born into my arms, Paul into my hands. It was amazing. It was I get so excited to remember that moment, because it's a moment that I imagined during the whole pregnancies. That's what I could imagine all the time, just lifting my baby up and smelling her head. And so with the first one, it was like that. They were both born in exactly the same space, which is the shower cubicle of one of our bathrooms. And so when the first one was born there, for the second one, I just somehow knew that this is exactly how it will happen again. Like, it was just such a clear process. And they were both born in pitch blackness, because both born at night, nearly identical time. And I always imagined that it would happen at night. I held them with the midwives were already there, because the first birth, usually takes a bit longer. So they were already in our home waiting. They gave me privacy. Usually with first births, they try to be very close to the birthing women. But when they asked me, I said, I really need to be on my own right now. During just coming into the final second stage of active labor, the last 45 minutes, I really wanted to be on my own. So they left. And then at one point during the sort of a pause between two contractions. One of them very gently snuck in and she said, "You're so close. I think it's nearly there. The baby's nearly there." And because she came with these amazing news, I allowed her to stay. I said, okay, like it was complete pitch black shower. And she just stayed sort of kneeling next to me on the floor and just waiting and answering my questions in between contractions, because I kept having this like, oh, I can't believe how is this happening? Sort of my mind kept going. And then the baby was born. She couldn't see anything, but I was like, she's here, because I was the one holding her. And then with the second one, everything nearly identical except for the part of the midwives, because they actually arrived about 3 contractions from her being born. So by the time they washed their hands, and by the time my husband came and checked, is it okay if they come? She was already in my arms, and which is exactly how I wanted. Yeah, it's hard to imagine me before women who.
And there's a power in that excitement. Sounds powerful.
It
sounds like it's in you for life. I mean, how is that?
Paul, I mean, I've heard someone say that women, even in the final days of their life, when they can no longer sometimes remember the names of their partners or what they did during their lifetime, they still remember birth stories. And I think it's so, I mean, with the first one especially, I just wanted to tell that story over and over again. And even now, like if anyone comes near the subject of birth, I'm so excited to share and so happy to tell more women that this is an incredible initiation to what happens afterwards, because this is only, birth is not the end. It's an end of pregnancy, but it's the very, very beginning of a huge, many year-long journey. And I think if the birth is done right, I mean, it just opens up inner resources that allow you to be the mom that you need to be for this baby, because you ultimately do not question yourself as much. You trust yourself. You have intuition, when the baby has a fever, or when you just know, what needs to be done.
If I asked you, how's your relationship changed with yourself, would it be what you're saying now, that you trust yourself more?
Yes, absolutely. And the feeling of there's nothing that I cannot do. Like there's nothing, in one hand, it's like, there's nothing greater that I can do, because, to give life ultimately is like, I mean, come on, how do you top that, but also there's nothing. Sorry?
Can you fly a helicopter? I'm sure you could do that.
Like I said, there's nothing that I cannot do, Paul. Not yet. That's the answer.
I've witnessed birth, and you're right. Once you birth, what else is there?
Yeah,
I mean, that's powerful thing.
And the second one, I think for me, the first one was very much from this empowerment, the strength, the ground underneath each mother is sacred. Like I just wanted to kiss like feet of every woman that I saw after the first birth. But with the second one, the power for me was in, it's incredible how focused this ease was, that it's possible to focus yourself into ease. And for me, that was no less, the first one was so like, rah, like this strength, this power, this intensity. Whereas with the second was like, wow, like this can be so simple and so like she was here.
Into ease, how do you take yourself there? Is that from your mindfulness, from your kind of inner training?
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything. I think I practiced a lot of meditation as well during pregnancy. It was non-negotiable. Every day for me was a lot of meditation. With pregnancies, I used to wake up a lot during the night. So for me, nighttime was a time of not seeing it as like, oh, I feel uncomfortable and I cannot sleep, but seeing it as like, wow, there's a space at night for me to connect in some way, to prepare, because ultimately you'll be waking up a lot once the baby's here. So it's a sort of a space that's already inviting you to be present during the nights and to feel your body, to feel the baby move. So meditation, I practice cold showers, because for me that was, even if it's 30 seconds or a minute, it's the length of a contraction. So if you can focus into discomfort in 1 minute, it's already a preparation to what is to come. So you just, there was an amazing interview that I heard with Amber Hartnell, who is the woman who appears in Orgasmic Birth as she's featured as someone who ends up having 3 orgasms, like full, intense, ecstatic birth. And she shared something so profound in one of her interviews. She talks about how pain is is basically it's trapped energy. So it means that it's not the body is blocking something, or we with our mind are blocking something. And she talks about how to just go into the very center wherever the sensation is most intense, going there and just breathing ease and sort of seeing it dissolve and sending light, and also observing where else in the body in that moment you are creating tension. So maybe clenching your fists or your jaw or whatever it is, and finding ways to relax that. And just, I mean, for me, it was contractions were absolutely full of pleasure, Paul. I can assure you that it's possible to have so much pleasure during birth. I mean, I recommend to all women to look into self-pleasure during birth, which would mean, you know, masturbation, whatever way you can create oxytocin in your body. I would so much recommend all of this.
Nipple stimulation brings oxytocin, clitoral stimulation does. Having a partner who sometimes a very light touch on the skin can massively increase, not that we're looking to make it more powerful, but just that intimate connection, especially if the midwife's not present, a couple can be close. So how was your partner? Was there any involvement with him for this?
He was very available for that, but to be honest, Paul, I had a very unexpected sort of change in what I thought would be I thought that before giving birth for the first time, I thought that I would want a very sensual birth, like being touched a lot and massaged and, you know, all the things. And actually the absolute opposite happened. In both births, I did not want to be touched at all. I found that there were so many sensations already present in my body that I was trying to process and deal with, that for me to be touched was so just, I don't want to explain how to be touched. I don't want to explain, oh, this is too much or this is too strong. I just felt like I just want to be left completely, you know, like a cat underneath a bed giving birth in complete darkness. I did not want anything at all, which was, it was something that I didn't expect at all. For example, before both births, I had orgasm, as in self-created self-pleasure session, because I think that helped to create a lot of beautiful lubrication in the body, a lot of engorgement, you know, a lot of just preparing for pleasure, preparing for sensations. And then with the second birth, actually between the contractions, I masturbated, and it allowed me to focus as well. It was this sort of rhythm between going from intensity to pleasure, from intensity to pleasure. It was amazing. I mean, I am amazed why this is not something that we just, you know, do like in all births. And I mean, I understand in hospital setting is probably more complicated, something like that, but I would definitely recommend women to just, let's take this taboo off of this subject.
We have a culture, often certain countries, the Germanic and English and Irish and other countries, of shame about the body and sexuality. So people are almost embarrassed that they've got a lower half of their body, and they're certainly not going to touch it or confess that they have. And yet listening to the body in life, but especially in pregnancy and birth, must be the most important and very powerful lessons that we can learn, is listening to the body.
Absolutely. I would say, you know, sit down during the pregnancy. For every woman, another highly recommended thing that helped me is sitting down with a mirror for an actual little session of hello, like meeting your vulva, you know, having a look at it's a place of youth, a gateway for this new life for the baby. And for me, exactly that, working through this discomfort of what it looks like, of what it, you know, what color it is, or what, all of it, just to understand that this is a very natural part of my body, that unless I am able to connect with it in the way that, you know, I am grateful that this is the way that my body is able to allow my baby to live, you cannot create that connection in the moment of birth. And I think it's so important to, as a preparation, to just sit, to do self-massage, to do a session where you truly enjoy this incredible magical body part, and you create a connection with it, just like, you know, you do before you take a photo, you do makeup for your face, or or just any body part that you want to function well, to send love towards it, I suppose.
It's interesting you say about the face. Of course, you see it every time you look in a mirror, and every day you're putting makeup or cleaning your teeth, and we see our face. But women often don't see their vulva, their vagina.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting at birth, some women are comfortable to feel the baby's head inside them before it comes out. And then they're more connected as the baby's head is coming out. And when it's out, they will touch it, they will receive their baby. And other women are less comfortable to connect to themselves. And that might be the work that women do during their life, during pregnancy, of connecting with themselves, perhaps through journaling, but also body awareness. And we can let go cultural, religious ideas that might have had shame associated with it. So yeah, interesting that you see your face all the time, and you're suggesting get a mirror, look at yourself, understand the physiology, the anatomy.
Even with clean hands in the shower setting, for me, for example, it was helpful during pregnancy to feel what the opening to the uterus feels like. So when you are dilating, you feel the difference. There's absolutely no need, unless you choose and you want that, there's absolutely no need for anyone to check how far you're dilated, because if you're aware of how it feels like within your body, and again, with clean hands in a shower setting, not hurting yourself, very, very gentle, but to understand that, you know, that you can feel these changes yourself. So whenever there was no need for me for the second birth, for the first birth, at one point, the midwives, with my permission, checked that, and for me that was one of the most discomfortable moments in birth, because I had to lie down on my back, which was not something that I wanted to do at all. And they checked, and you know, there was very little progress, and I felt frustrated after the exam, and I was in my own home and all of that. And so I remember for the second birth, when I planned, I was very clear that I am not doing any checkups. There's absolutely no need for that. The baby will come whenever she comes. And I also had the awareness to do it myself, to see that things were changing. You know, the opening was getting bigger, the baby's head, I could feel it very well. I could feel so yeah, it's
That's why
another way.
Talk about this, because a very few people I've known, sometimes a midwife during their own birth, have checked inside. And I understand that the cervix can feel when it's hard and closed, like the end of your nose.
Absolutely.
Or like your lips when it's soft and opening and stretching. And of course, you know, is the baby this far away, or is it getting closer and closer? And sometimes it's very encouraging when the partner, the husband or whoever the partner is, sees, you know, the labia parting and you can see the head beginning to come. This is sometimes it creates some excitement, but I hope it doesn't create the cheerleading effect where people start being very vocal. When a woman is instinctive, she doesn't need to hear all these things. But self-checking sounds like a good encouragement to hear that from you. Yeah.
If someone feels comfortable and they feel like it's something that, you know, why not?
But as a midwife, I want to, and maybe even more so being a man, I always ask much more about permission to touch a woman. I don't assume permission. And sometimes some females, midwives, might do that. But I would always do an examination in the pool, in the water, or on all fours. It's true that sometimes you can find out a bit more information, but we have to ask ourselves the same question for an internal examination or anything else. What are the risks? What are the benefits? We might find information out that doesn't help us. So why do it? So generally, when I'm with a home birth, I might have done one examination on 0 for the whole labour and birth, because you can see the progress externally. You can see the body language. So it's very good leaving women alone. But in a hospital, they've got a clock and they've got a lot of pressure. But the woman can say no, or even just with her body, get off the bed, not be available to have an internal, unless there's some life-saving reason she really needs or wants it. But sometimes it helps to have some information. But as you say, it was disappointing to hear you were not as far on as you hoped to have been.
I guess it's all, yeah, exactly. Not making it a default. So of course, everything is helpful. Sometimes, you know, cesarean is the absolute thing that needs to happen, but not making that a default or a normal story that, well, this is just what happens. Like, well, let's understand how, sometimes things can go wrong, or what caused, maybe too many exams are causing the woman to feel stressed, and therefore the birth is slowing down, or whatever it might be the case. So I think it's about, everything is okay once it happens. Every story matters. Every story is important. Every mama is an amazing warrior, an amazing, each story is important equally. But I always would like to not normalize things that don't have to be normal. That doesn't have to be the norm, that someone gets checked or interrupted 1,000 times.
We have normalized cesarean. Yeah.
Things should, let's see how we can give this power back to where it's due.
And you have two daughters. Maybe one day they're giving birth, but did the older one get to witness the birth of her younger one, or she understands the stories? How's her relationship to her mother giving birth at home? What does she understand?
She feels very comfortable with the story. She actually didn't get to see it because it happened. I read her goodnight stories at 9:30, and her sister was here by midnight. So it was very quick birth. She just fell asleep and she didn't hear anything. We were very open to her being able to be part of it whenever and whichever way she felt like it. She knew that it was going to happen at home, but then she missed it and only woke up when we came upstairs with the baby, and she started, crying, and woke her up, and that's when they met. But I love seeing the way she plays with her toys, because she plays a lot, the scenario of different toys, having babies, her little rabbit toys or her little teddy bears. And it's always very empowering stories, because she's heard them from me. She's asked a lot of questions. Even she's 5, but as I was preparing for birth, she was 4. She was already watching a lot of videos on Instagram of birth videos. For kids, it's exciting, it's interesting, it's normal. It's for us to see, blood coming out and somebody's vulva opening up, it might be like, wow, what's happening? Because it's not normal for us. But for kids, they're open to it. Or even if they say, oh, I don't like this, you can have a conversation to understand what it is that makes you feel uncomfortable. So I think for kids, it's very easy. It's very easy to accept things as wow. So that's how we do. That's how babies are born. You just do it at home. For her, it's unusual to hear that babies are born in hospitals. Like sometimes she asks me like, oh, so tell me a story. Why was that baby? Why did they go to hospital? And even I had.
In your local community, are you a rarity, or you happen to be friends with other women who've had home births and those midwives that you mentioned? I understand you're in Spain.
Yeah, but we have I live in a little village outside of Madrid. And interestingly enough, I have quite a few, some of my best friends are home birth. And not because we didn't meet because of the subject, but we met after birth in some cases. And it just seems like in our community here where we live, it's not such a unusual event. Of course, it's still not the norm. It's still not the majority in Spain. It's a very, very small percentage. I'm not sure to quote it, but I believe it's less than 5%, maybe even less than 1%, something like that. But where we are, it's very interesting. There's a huge breastfeeding community where we are, like women continuing into toddlerhood, and it seems very normal to see a woman in the park breastfeeding her baby. And so it's a very nice feeling to, not that it matters after a while, Paul, when you know that you're doing something and it's a truth for you, it doesn't matter anymore what anyone else thinks. You feel so determined and so right, and you can always find support online. There's amazing women to connect with and amazing stories to listen to. And but it's also lovely when you have, your best friend who's also had a similar experience, and twice, and she's ready to share, and then you know that it's not luck. Then that it's not luck.
Positive makes positive, yeah. I think so. You're attracting positive friends around you. So just drawing towards a close with this, if you had one phrase, one statement that you would want to encourage a woman who's listening to this, planning her first perhaps birth, is there something you would shout from the rooftops? What is it that women really need, or you would like to share to help them to find the birth they want?
Yeah, I think ultimately, Paul, is trusting. It's trusting. It's coming back to you, coming back to your body, coming back to all the things that I mean, you know, it's for millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years we've been doing this, and it's only the last 50 years that this new story has been sold to us that somehow women can't do this, or someone is doing it for them, or you know, you can do this. Once you have your vision, once you create this point of focus of the outcome that you want, the whole universe shifts around you. You know, people will come into your life that can support you. If you want a team around you, information will come that supports you. But once your intention and focus, I think if you start with what is my intention for this, like what is the experience that I would like to have, and being so, yeah, coming back to it, practicing this focus over and over again, this intention, then magical things begin to happen. It really is. And also, not because it guarantees an outcome. Maybe the outcome will still be something else, but through that process of refocusing, of finding your truth, finding your ground, finding the information, it just helps enormously, regardless of what happens afterwards. Even if it does end up being a transfer to hospital, at least you will feel like, well, that's a decision that I made. Or it's a cesarean. Well, in that moment, I knew enough about birth. I had talked about, you know, with my midwives about this. I knew that this was the right thing, and I made this decision, and it was the right decision for us. And then it still feels just as empowering to feel that I intuitively felt like, okay, let's do this because this is the right thing. So yeah, practicing.
What you're saying, I like the last one. So intention and trust are big ones, but also letting go of the outcome. And as a midwife, I also let go of the outcome and have to be present to the process. And that means being present to myself. So the midwife needs to do their journaling.
Yeah.
To be with themselves so they can be with the woman. And we don't need to be too close to the woman, but if we're holding a space and we are having complicated negative thoughts going on and we're not sorting out our own stuff, we're probably going to project it, the same as parents do on our children.
Yeah.
So the more we're sorting ourselves out, we're never at the end of the rainbow, perhaps, or maybe we are, but we're on a journey. So that journey of awareness seems to come from, like you said, having intention, trusting, but there is some work to do. And for me, the work can be simply, I would say, go for a walk every day. That's mental and physical exercise, or meditation in action.
I agree. Whatever it is that helps you come to your body, find what's true to you, find what makes you feel this well-being, connecting with baby, you know, especially I think we have this, and again, a story, a belief that the baby somehow until, I don't know, they're 4 years old, the child, that you cannot, you know, that they're not intelligent or they don't understand what we're saying them. I think it starts from before we even conceive the baby. Let's invite them consciously. Let's start life like this. And throughout the pregnancy, connect all the time. Feel that energy. Feel what it feels like to have this being within you. Have conversations, whether it's through journaling, whether it's just sitting down, whether it's just placing your hand on your belly and saying hi. And because it is a team, at the end of the day, it's these two energies, two beings that are co-creating the process. And the baby obviously follows the mom. So if he feels the mom is stressed, then the baby joins in the same energy. But I believe that also if mom feels empowered, even if the baby is beginning to feel stressed or mama can sort of, okay, we're doing this, like we can get through this, and you work with these energies in that way. I think it's a very different experience once you realize that it is co-creators.
Very active passenger. You're working together as a team.
It's a co-creator. It's like it's two doing the work together, you know. So remembering, even during birth.
Teach you. I mean, I'm sure they teach you as children, but even inside you, do you feel your baby's teaching you to change position, to eat or drink?
Absolutely. I believe even during birth, if there's a particularly difficult moment, or there's some delay, or there's some obstacle, is to actually for the woman to have a pause, even if or a decision, a medical intervention. Okay, we're going to have to move on to this step because it's not going to work like this. Well, then, like let's have, even it's 2 minutes to say to this baby, look, I'm about to do this because this is what the options are, and because this hasn't happened, we have to proceed with this, or I don't know what to do because things are not dilating quickly enough. Please, let's work with this together. Like it's an amazing feeling to sort of connect in that way, and to move from that space of like, we're doing this together.
So I'll finish this. Listening to those words makes me think we can also invite the universe, like we would a baby, to work with us. And often we're working against things, using a lot of energy and resources. And it's like we're fighting ourselves quite often. So instead of that,
Always.
invite the universe or the baby or whoever it is we want help from. Let's invite people to work with us.
Oh, exactly. And so much presence. If you invoke during birth, you can just say, like, during the second birth, I had such a strong feeling of like, any woman in my lineage who has given birth successfully, because I'm here, please come, like, please send your energy, please send your strength, please, any beings, any, whatever you believe in, whatever your support, maybe it's your dad in another city, that is just sending you happy thoughts. Like, let's just feel that energy here, palpable in the room. And I think
Wonderful that you bring that in. I feel almost embarrassed to say this, but I have sometimes reminded a mother, a woman, could be a young woman giving birth, imagine all the people that love you in your life, whether they're here or not, and that they're present and they're giving you their love. But even when I'm driving to a birth, I make a connection to the sky and say, I need some help. It's about the process, and it's beyond me. And sometimes I'm feeling or acknowledging their lineage, as you said, of the grandmothers, the aunties, all of those women's energy wishing this young woman to birth well. And there's a lot of power, a lot of love in that. And I think we've lost some of that in our material focused culture, but all of us are spiritual beings. We have a deep inner knowing. So good to hear you acknowledge that. So encouraging for others.
It's a huge, beautiful, amazing spiritual initiation if some women want to experience it like that. I think with anything, every particle of this universe is as straightforward and banal or as sacred and as amazing as we choose to see it. So if you choose to see birth as a ceremony of life, of celebration, of a mystery, well, then that's what it will feel like, and that's what you'll experience.
Well, let's finish with the quote, I think, from Einstein sums that up. We can see all of life either as a miracle or not as a miracle.
Yeah, I like that.
I see miracles being born, and not the miracle of the baby, but the mother and the father also. I just see love. It's a great job to work with love.
It's a gift to have you, Paul, in birth for many women, I'm sure, to have someone so open to this possibility to see birth as a magical miracle. It's a very big gift, your presence.
As you know, I do nothing, you do everything.
But you do nothing very well. That's your talent. Yeah, you're very good at doing nothing. Many people are not good at doing nothing, especially in hospital settings. So you're a magician of doing nothing.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.